I have to admit, I used to kind of have it in for Play Misty for me. There's a couple of reasons why. Firstly, I mean, okay, just to get this out of the way, as of this point in time, I think it's quite a quality film. I think some of the filmmaking is impressive. Some of the photography is genuinely terrifying. It's an effective film. On the other hand, while the film was probably received quite well at the time of its release, 1971, about as well as it deserved, likely as not. Although Clint Eastwood films from the 1970s, by the 90s or 21st century, they attained a status which was untouchable. You would say it got to a point where Clint Eastwood films from the 1970s, whether he starred in them or directed them or both, were considered just the greatest films of all time, or may as well have been. And they're not. They're just films. So many things are factoring into these films' ultimate affect. And I think the fact is that Clint Eastwood was such an adulated, adored figure that in the 1970s, such a time with Eastwood as a performer in his prime, that people couldn't help but just be sucked in and involved with every feature film experience they viewed featuring Clint Eastwood from this era. Whether it were older audiences out of nostalgia or younger audiences just thrilled that an icon like that had so many quality films to their name at one time. And of course, the aesthetic of 1970s American films is still very beloved to this day, and it tends to be considered the finest era in the history of American films, and not without relatively good reason, I would think. I would say. I would agree to a point, actually. Oh, but aside from, the film's over-exaggerated reputation or level of quality being perhaps a bit overbearing in the discourse, whatever. I also felt that this film was a bit... Okay, I don't think the film is sexist, but it can be used as ammunition or a tool for those who want to enforce their more obnoxious beliefs onto others. She's cray-cray. I don't like the idea that this film, whether it intended to or not, I'm sure it didn't, is validating some sort of ideological claptrap, And it is ideological. If you don't think men are capable of being lunatics, I really don't know what to tell you guys. That being said, Jessica Walter's performance in this film is so strong that it can traumatize one into having very binary views of the world, perhaps. Still possibly not as evil as Lucille Bluth, however.